children and education, and other pockets around the country and in different areas. But on a whole, this is still the case, where you see that the average here, the education average, where the benchmark that they expect every child to be attaining, you see that when a child enters into school, a black child, an African Caribbean child, this graph represents boys and girls, okay, goes in 5-6 percentage points above the average, above the target. By the time they leave, they are way down. Now, we could have a whole big argument about it, but that's just a matter of fact. And we've got to ask ourselves the question, why is this the case? And we see other groups, and we see the Chinese, and well, Chinese aren't even on, because they start 15, 20 points above anyway. So they're just flying, and they keep on flying. We see the likes of the Bangladeshi and the Pakistani students, pupils, they start low, primarily due to language, bilingual challenges, but they increase. But one of the key things of their increase, there is some research from the National Resource Centre that has a database of all the supplementary schools as they support them. One of the key, one of the top ethnicities for running supplementary education programs are the Bangladeshi community and also the Polish community. Some of the two top communities that run complementary, supplementary education programs. They're not just leaving it to the state. And when we read from the introduction to the black churches, from the Windrush generation, education in this country by black people was being supported and complemented in homes, in churches, because they realized that the education system they thought their children was going to get needed supplementing. But it's sad that today there's a generation that don't have the same spirit of giving back and supporting and also valuing education in that way. But we have a fantastic opportunity now that the big society mindset people are getting, and hopefully it will permeate into our community as well. Thank you very much. And so this is a government document here. We clearly have a problem because the gaps that we saw, yes, the gaps that we saw, yeah, we do have a problem. Yeah, things are upside down, you know, and we've got to do something about it because the government is saying those gaps aren't going to change until for black Caribbean students the year 2045. 2045. These aren't things we did in our office. This is what the government says. So if you want to leave it to the state, then we just wait till 2045 and everything will be all right. And black African, 2053, the year 2053. And this is also published in the REACH report. So we've got to do something to buck the trend. Hence why supplementary, complementary education is very, very important. It's worthwhile us all investing in it. Thank you. So just keep going until you're going to start seeing a whole jigsaw come together. That's it now. And here you can see the many different reasons for underachievement. You know, there's government policies. We see that many changes in government policies doesn't help a child to improve. For example, the Key Stage 3 testing was very important. Key Stage 3, Key Stage 2. Prior to that, they had some tests that would assess their ability, and with that, they would then be placed into a banding. That's gone. As a result of that, to be honest, it's now left to the judgment of the teachers. But many teachers, as evidenced in Ian Duncan Smith's Breakthrough Britain report, they have what they call unwitting racism. Now, the head of secondary education, Peter Wanless, wrote a report and simply said that in 2007 it was called Getting It Right. And he said that schools are institutionally racist. He is the head, or was the permanent secretary of education. But he clarified it very well by saying, unwittingly so, they just don't know it. Does that make sense? And we appreciate that. Okay. Racism, class issues, insufficient support from parents, because many are just busy and too busy doing different things. Okay. But also the key point, if you look at the way the order in which the jigsaw came together, it was by the pupil. The pupil has got to take responsibility. Each student, every child, has got to take responsibility for their own achievement. And we've got to support them, but at the end of the day, we cannot abdicate, they cannot abdicate their responsibility, and we can't let them off the hook either. We've got to give them all the support and resources and help that we can. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just slide, this begins to show us that supplementary education works. Just one more, thank you. You know, these are all the statistics. On our program, 67% of the boys who come in our program, 67% compared to 19% actually achieve their 5 A to C grades just by coming to a supplementary education program and being involved in this complementary education. Thank you. We know that the education, next slide please, we know that education failure shows that almost every aspect of social breakdown, including crime, unemployment, and substance abuse, is connected with education failure. When you go into the prisons, you start to assess their education achievement. It's predominantly poor. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. And we can see that crime is 73% of young offenders describe their academic attainment as nil. I mean, know the statistics, unemployment, and the likes, black young people not being represented in professional sectors, in universities. All of these things have a massive impact upon our society, and it's a great loss for our community and the community at large if great talent is not being used where it should be. Thank you. There was a slide that said, where do we go from here? After all, seemingly some of that bad old news is like, my gosh, where do we go from here? You know, but thank you. We've got somewhere to go because this is where the offerings as an of an organisation like Excel3, who run the You Can Excel project, the franchise model, we give you the support that you need to start and to maintain a good quality of service. Thank you. And these are some of our projects around the country. Just keep going till the end of the page, please. Bristol, London, Derby, Luton, Coventry, Birmingham, and you can see. And so we're constantly trying to increase our footprint, but with each project comes a strength to the community, if that makes sense. Now, there's a principle called Ubuntu. Anybody heard of Ubuntu? Yeah. I love the principle of Ubuntu. Yeah. You know, I am me because of we in simplified form. But it's about valuing the contribution that everybody brings into the village. Okay, and as part of our delivery plan, the next slide please, you'll see that what we request of all of our projects is that they provided personal development, positive role models, positive environment, high expectations, and predominantly we work between 9 and 16, but increasingly that has now gone to sort of like 5 because students need the intervention a whole lot sooner than in secondary education. And we also have a minimum fee. We say a minimum fee, and every project determines that. We simply say, don't offer it for free. Because where it is free, people will not value it. Yeah. Even if you're putting a price on it, then at least they will have, if it's £1, if it's £5 average, what we do, because private tuition normally is about £14 an hour. And our sessions normally be 2 to 3 hours for £5, okay, per child. But it's dependent upon the individual project to determine that, because at the end of the day, you've got to make your books balance, okay? So, some of the things that we do, part of our program, we talked about some of our resources, thank you. You've got to keep going until that's populated. You'll see that we have programs that look at ambition, that look at, and through ambition of goal setting, time management, peer pressure, education, which brings the focus. We look at manners and respect. We look at be proud of who you are, your identity, and planning for adulthood. And a key component of that is enterprise. And that's from the very beginning. Okay? And when we talk about culture, it's very important that young people have a clear identity, a positive identity of who they are. Lots of our young people, how many of you young children have been born in this country? Okay, all right, I'm born here too as well. Now you don't realize it, and you, as parents, you have to look at your children and go, oh, You know why? Because what we have, what I had, being born in this country, is something called double consciousness. It's where I see myself through somebody else's eyes. All of my life I've been told that black is second class. I've been told that when I grew up watching Tarzan, and I see, all due respect, a white man, he was lost in the jungle, suddenly becomes king of the jungle. And he'd go, oh, and all the black men would run away. And the lions and the elephants would be so obedient to him. So I thought, it's good to be white. It's powerful to be white. I was told when I went to the doctor's surgery, I'd go anywhere, I was told, be still. Before I even got into the room, listen, just behave yourself. Don't embarrass me. So when you go there, you sit down. And you're the best children. You're sick, you're poorly, you're bored. But you just sit there. Don't you even think about moving. Not a word said. Then you'd see the other children of other ethnicities running around, climbing and playing with the toys that are being provided for them. But could you do that? No. You stay there like a good boy. You want to let them people know how civilized we are. Okay? So, from a young age, you're growing up as a second-class citizen in your mind. So there's a job for a manager which you are more than qualified for. You say, well, I don't see any other managers who are black, so I'll go for the coordinator position, because that's where I see black people. Does that make sense? But then you'll find somebody who hasn't got this double consciousness, who's come from Africa, come from the Caribbean, and goes, I want to be the manager. I'll apply to be the manager, and I'll put myself together. And then when they come over here, they're looking at us who've been born here, and they're saying, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you so oppressed? They just don't get it. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, anyway, I can go on, but I'm not going to. Anyway, so what we like to do sometimes is give them a sense of ownership. Another clip, please. And so we talk about, next one more clip. Right. Here are some of the contributions of black people in British history. It's great to talk about African black history, but when you talk about British black history, it's wonderful. Because they can suddenly realize that, there have been contributions from as high as the royal family, where black people have been queens. We've seen Septimus Severus, AD 125. He was an African who was the emperor over the emperor over the UK. He built Hadrian's Wall. He rebuilt Hadrian's Wall in Scotland, and he's buried at York Cathedral. It used to be the capital of England. Okay, you've got Queen Charlotte, who was the grandmother of Queen Victoria, and that picture is at Westminster, just round the corner from here, in the Queen's room. And in the millennium, when the Queen spoke in her speech, she says, and I'd like to pay homage. Remember the Millennium Celebrations at Buckingham Palace? I'd like to pay homage to my diverse cultural heritage. She knows, they know where she's from. And anyway, you might say, this person here, for example, Queen Philippa, all of these are from the British National Archives, not from the Black Press, or from Black Boys Can mock-up page. These are from the British National Archives, okay? Kew Gardens, go there, Google it, it's all there. Wonderful, beautiful things about England, don't throw nothing away. Archive. Queen Philippa was England's first black queen. You say to me, Stephen, she don't look black. She doesn't look black, does she? When you read the description of her, which you will read, I've got another slide, but you can read it in the same archive. He actually describes, Bishop Stapleton, who described her, talked about her being black-skinned, high forehead, big lips, brown eyes. Doesn't look like that, does it? And she's brown of skin like her father. Her first child was called the Black Prince. Okay, he caused a lot of trouble in France. But anyway. But all we're trying to do is let the boys understand that just before the Windrush, there was a black presence. And it wasn't just slavery either. Slavery was relatively modern in relation to the contributions that we have made. Anyway, in conclusion, thank you. We'll skip past that, thanks. We tried to engage the young people in conferences. It's interesting, as I looked at this slide, this is one of our national conferences. I think you and I now has always been one of our best supporters. This young man now is doing his PhD at Oxford. This young man is a national member of the National British Youth Council. This young man runs his own company. These were some of the boys in our program. next to the patron, Bill Morris. What I'm trying to say is, when somebody says, the 100 black men say, what you see is what you'll be. So we've got to create environments for young men and young women to go amongst us. What they will see is what they will aspire to be. Next, please. And we've moved on, and this is a beautiful program, the NABSS bursary scheme. Has anybody heard of the NABSS bursary scheme? Okay. It's a scheme where a program where through the NABSS family, Baroness NABSS, who's now working at the United Nations, following the death of her mother and father in close proximity, they set up a foundation, or wanted to, and they worked with us and are working with XL3. And over the last 5 years, we've been able to support now 50 black boys, these are some of them here, who have aspirations to go to university, and so they're all now in university, and we've been able, through some of our partners, to give them full scholarships. Okay, but with the primary thing that we give them is mentors, professional mentoring and support to keep them on the track. So the mentoring lasts for 4 or 5 years. Okay, thank you. Part of our sustainability, how have we been able to get through this period of austerity? It has not been easy. What we've done is developed 2 online resources. No matter what we did, whether it be mentoring, whether it be spiritual development, at the end of the day, if a child can't read, you ain't going to do yet. You're wasting your time, apart from developing the character of a young person who's going to work in the community, be an activist, be an entrepreneur, be a self-starter. If you want that child to develop and be employable, okay, which is not always the case, but hopefully it's one of the core objectives, we said, okay, we need to improve literacy. And so we put a program together which is targeting especially boys, okay, and it's called The World of Words, and you can buy it online. And then we saw, from this, we realized there was another group of young people, especially, again, boys, who don't want to read because it's just too much words in a book. There's too many words. And so we realized that if we could help them, just like students who go to grammar schools, private schools, and chief executives and professionals, they have speed reading courses. Anybody ever been on a speed reading course? Okay, we deliver speed reading courses directly and also through our online program. And so again, we sell this product so people can buy it. It gives you advantage. It gives you advantage. But I'm not here to sell that. But next slide, please. So, some of our resources and projects that churches are able to engage with are the Children in Care Project, the Wise Boys Project. That's our inclusive project for boys of any ethnicity. Okay, then we've got the Education in Recovery. So children who are not able to go to school, they might have sickle cell, have to spend a lot of time at home. Okay, so how do you support those at home? Then there's the Black Boys Can Project. Okay, and then there's School Inclusion Project. That's for young people who are finding school a challenge. Those in pupil referral units or those in all the places. But one of the key areas is resilience. Thank you. Next one. And I love this because what it's doing, and this is what supplementary education providers do, is support an individual to be able to be resilient, resourceful, to overcome to have social competencies and cultural strategies that permit individuals not only to survive, but to recover, or even thrive after stressful events, but also to draw from the experience to enhance subsequent functioning. Resilience is the ability to just flex. So when somebody gets in your face, as often is the case if you're a person of colour, okay, then you've got to be able to flex. Because some people just want you to break. I lost it. As soon as you lost it, they can put hands on you. They can put you somewhere else. They can control you. As long as you flex with it, as long as you're able to roll with it. The first thing we always say to young people, when you go into an institution or into a company, first thing you know, the policies and the procedures, get familiar with it. Policy and procedures. This wonderful country of Great Britain is high on that, and it will protect you more than hurt you. And in conclusion, to talk about the long story, thank you. We've gone from, and again, not everything that counts can be counted. Not everything that can be counted counts. So what we are involved with in supplementary education are things that aren't always evidenced. But if we have a real, genuine relationship, which we're able to do through the churches, because as Pastor Maddox said, We see them on a service day. We might also see the young person on a weekday. It gives us additional leverage. Who-ness and what-ness is important. Your who-ness is who you are. Today what we've put is what-ness over who-ness. What-ness is important. Yes, I'm a professional X and I'm a professional Y and I can do that. But who are you? And that's why sometimes you take people and they become retired. You take their job and they become redundant. They have a nervous breakdown. They don't know who they are anymore because their identity has been through their whatness and not their who-ness. And so whatness and who-ness is important. Okay. And we've come, thank you, we have now, in the process of establishing a free school, we've been approved to open a new free school. It's called the King Solomon International Business School that is going to open in September in Birmingham City Centre next year. Thank you. And it's a Christian school. It's a Christian school, and it's going to have an international business emphasis. And so from being a supplementary education provider, we've now become a mainstream education provider. And we're just so pleased that we can be a model, we can be a template for other good practitioners of education. And so it can be done. Thank you. And that's it. There you go. I'm going to finish on there. And we're going to have, I'll have some questions before I go any further. Just one or two questions. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. Keith Davidson. Any comment or feedback or questions?
I wanted to ask you, you said your program was designed to work holistically with the parents, the schools, and also the community.
Yes.
What experience have you had, or what kind of problems did you face when trying to work with schools?
The schools, first of all, they don't take you seriously. They don't take you seriously. So what we have fortunately been able to do, our biggest breakthrough was when one of our children who comes to our program in the weekend, the teachers took him aside and after a few weeks and says, oh, what's happening? Your grades are going up, your attitudes change, your behaviour, what's going on? He said, oh, I'm going to that Black Boys Camp program weekends, and carried on. That high achieving school phoned us up and says, we want you to do what you're doing with this guy in school. When that school, once a top achieving school in Brent, started it, we're delivering it in their school, the other feeder school says, if they want it, then we want it. And so we started to work with other secondary schools and then all the feeder schools. And so we ended up having a contract for the whole of Brent. And so it's the young people themselves are the biggest adverts and your marketing tools. And that's why we've got to take it seriously and equip them in their communication, in their confidence, and for them to take it with them. It's not just while they're in the program to be well behaved, but when you go back home and you go back